funny thing, really. Say Marilyn Monroe, and the room instantly lights up with this artificial sparkle, almost like an Instagram filter, only straight out of the 1950s. But if you'd ever seen her early in the morning, before the makeup had time to claim her face, you might not have recognized her at all. Because underneath all the glitter lived Norma Jeane. Yep, that very same quiet girl with more vulnerability in her eyes than glamour. It's wild how photo archives still try to convince us she was made entirely of highlights. The perfect smile, that floaty walk, like she was gliding instead of stepping. And yet, behind all of it, lived silence. A heavy, echoing kind of quiet carried from childhood, from rooms where walls changed more often than the people inside them. Sometimes it feels like home was a word she spent her life assembling like a puzzle, forever missing pieces. Studio folks used to say, "Marilyn is gold," and she'd smile, but it was one of those smiles that knew its own price. She understood everyone wanted eternal lightness from her, as if she were a lamp you could switch on whenever the scene needed a dream. Inside, though, inside lived anxiety, cold, persistent, like someone tugging on a thin thread that held her world together. She was much smarter than she allowed herself to appear, devoured books, everything from Chekhov to acting textbooks. In acting class, that glamorous Marilyn vanished, erased like chalk from a board. There sat Norma instead, focused, stubborn, sharp. "I want to be an actress, not just a pretty face," she'd say. But Hollywood doesn't always hear things it can't profit from. Behind all the luxurious photos people adored were the nights she spent alone, writing letters, trying desperately to convince herself she wasn't just an image. In one letter she confessed, "It's scary being what everyone wants me to be." Very human, isn't it? She dreamed not of fireworks, but of a quiet kind of love, something where she'd be seen not as an icon, but as a woman who kept a book closer than her pillows on cold nights. They called her difficult, unpredictable, complicated. But here's a thought. What if difficult was just fear wearing makeup? What if her unpredictability was the scream of someone who'd been forced to live inside other people's expectations for too long? Her last years felt like a script someone else had written for her. Meetings that drained her, breakups, pills, nights where sleep hovered just out of reach. And still, she looked for light. She laughed at assistants' jokes, comforted young actresses, slipped money to people no one bothered to notice. "Being kind is the simplest way to survive," she'd say, and she meant it. Her death at 36 hit the world like a brick to the chest. Newspapers clawed at every piece of scandal, affairs, mysteries, anything that sold copies. But almost no one wrote about the part that mattered. She stayed human until the very end. A woman who just wanted love, calm, and a home she never truly had. Legends don't grow out of perfection. They grow out of the fight to stay alive and honest in a world that wants a myth instead of a person. Marilyn became a legend because she dared to be alive, painfully, beautifully alive, where people expected a fantasy. Her name was Marilyn Monroe. But her heart? Her heart was always Norma. And maybe, just maybe, that real woman
not the icon, is the one the world still remembers.